My name's Aaron, and the first thing I need to say is that I'm not someone who goes looking for trouble. I'm 32. I'm an interior designer. In January of 2022, I booked a cheap but cute duplex in Milwaukee for a weekend consult. 2 nights, 1 client meeting. Nothing romantic about it. I wasn't there to relax or escape. I just didn't want to pay hotel prices for a job that was supposed to be boring. The first morning, I opened my eyes and noticed it immediately. The basement door was cracked open, and I knew I'd locked it because I'm the kind of person who checks locks twice, sometimes 3 times if I'm staying somewhere unfamiliar. The duplex had that typical Airbnb look: white walls, neutral furniture, a couple of framed prints pretending to have personality. Outside, snow had been falling since the night before, smoothing everything out. The neighborhood felt muted, almost sealed off. I was alone. That wasn't unusual. I travel for work fairly often. The host had been friendly but distant. Keypad entry, short messages, lots of "let me know if you need anything." The night before, I'd done my normal routine. Walked the place with my bag still on my shoulder. Checked windows, front door, back door, closet, bathroom, even behind the shower curtain. The basement door sat in the hallway across from the bathroom, just a plain door with a cheap knob and 1 deadbolt above it. I remember turning the lock, testing it, tugging the handle. It was solid. So seeing it open felt like the house disagreeing with me. I got up, closed it, locked it again, and tested it harder this time. Then I chose the explanation I wanted to believe. Old house, cold weather, latch problem. Milwaukee winters don't play nice. I went to my meeting that day and acted normal. For a while, the door felt like something that had already been left behind. That night before bed, I checked it again. Locked, tugged, and it was fine. The next morning, it was open again. This time I felt embarrassed more than scared, like I was being dramatic over a door. I closed it, locked it, tested it, and stared at it for a while. It didn't move. I spent the day talking myself down. I told myself it was a latch alignment issue. I told myself I'd probably rushed it the first night. I told myself I'd feel stupid later for even thinking about it. That night, I decided to solve it. I dragged a dining chair into the hallway and wedged it under the knob at an angle. Not professional grade security, but enough that the door shouldn't open without moving the chair. I took a quick photo, locked the deadbolt, and went to bed. Sometime in the night, I woke up to the kind of quiet you only get when the heat shuts off and the world outside is buried in snow. Then I noticed the smell. Damp air mixed with something like old laundry. Not strong enough to gag, but strong enough to notice. It didn't belong upstairs. I lay there telling myself it was the ductwork, that basement smell like that I was being hyper-aware because I was tired. Then I heard something under the floorboards. I sat up slowly, grabbed my keys, and slid them into my hoodie pocket. I moved my bag closer to the front door without calling it what it was: a plan. When I stepped into the hallway, every light went on. The chair was no longer wedged under the knob, and the basement door was cracked open. The chair hadn't fallen, which meant the door hadn't swung open naturally. It had been pushed against resistance, just enough to break the seal. I stood there staring at the door. Then I opened the door a few inches and shined my phone flashlight down the stairs. The basement disappeared quickly into darkness. Concrete walls, a handrail, the kind of basement you don't explore unless you have to. The dust on the landing looked wrong, compressed with footprints, marks that suggested shoes heavier than mine, bigger, like someone had stepped up, paused, and gone back down without worrying about what they left behind. I shut the door fast and messaged the host immediately. No emotion, just photos. The door, the chair, the dust. I wrote that the door kept opening and asked if anyone had access to the basement. The reply came almost immediately, which was weird considering that it was the middle of the night. "It's an old basement, don't worry about it." No questions, no concern, just dismissal. I replied that I was uncomfortable, that I had photos, that I wanted to end the stay early and relocate. The tone changed instantly. It was worse than hostile, it was dismissive, like I was creating a problem for him, like I was inconvenient. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. Then my messages stopped delivering. He blocked me. I stood there in a fully lit hallway with my phone in my hand, staring at the basement door like it might explain itself. That's when the self-blame kicked in. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe the dust was old. Maybe I was projecting. But the door was open. The smell was there. And I knew what I'd heard under the floor. I left in the middle of the night. Outside, the snow was untouched. It didn't offer answers. I drove to a gas station and sat under the lights until my hands stopped shaking. Airbnb support eventually responded. The host never did. My name's Lauren, and this happened in October of 2022 while I was working a short travel contract in Asheville. 4 weeks. I was staying in a basement unit. It was under a house in a quiet neighborhood. It had its private entrance around the side, keypad lock, and a gravel path with solar lights that barely did anything. Inside, it looked like every listing photo you've ever seen. White bedding, small kitchenette, a couple of mugs hanging on hooks, and a framed mountain print. The host messaged right after I checked in. "Welcome. Let me know if you need anything." Friendly and hands-off. Exactly what I wanted. I unpacked, scrubs laid out for the morning, phone plugged in, meal prep at the tiny counter, chicken, rice, broccoli. I FaceTimed a friend while I ate standing up, because I hate eating in bed. Then shower. Hair in a towel, lights off, bed. Sleep didn't come. My eyes kept drifting upward toward the ceiling above the bed. There was a smoke detector mounted there, but it wasn't where I expected it to be. It wasn't centered. It was lower than normal and aimed slightly toward the bed. I tried to ignore it, told myself it was nothing. Old house. Bad install. Still, my body wouldn't relax. It felt like being watched without seeing anyone. I finally turned the lamp on and sat up. In the light, it looked harmless. Plain white plastic. I felt stupid for fixating on it. But when I got closer, I noticed something else. There was another smoke detector in the short hallway near the bathroom. Same shape, but not the same finish. That one was matte, slightly yellowed, like it had been there a while. The one over the bed was glossier, newer. And the hallway detector sat flush against the ceiling. The one over the bed didn't. There was a thin shadow line on one side, like it hadn't been fully mounted. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. On the face of the device, there was a tiny dark dot, a pinhole. I stood there thinking, no, this isn't real. This doesn't happen to me. My first instinct was to take photos. Then I got a chair from the kitchenette and climbed up. I didn't rip it down. I twisted it gently, like you would to change a battery. It loosened too easily. When the cover came off, everything inside me stopped. Inside was a tiny lens, a compact circuit board, and a micro SD slot, pointed directly at where my pillow would be. I sat on the bed holding it like it was contaminated. Then I looked around the room again, and it stopped feeling like a room. It felt staged, like a set. I took more photos, close-ups, the ceiling mount, the inside of the device. I didn't know what would matter later, so I documented everything. Then I messaged the host. I kept my tone neutral on purpose. "Hi, I opened the smoke detector over the bed and found a camera inside. I've attached photos. Can you explain?" He replied almost immediately. "It's not active. Don't worry." Then, right after, "Please don't report it. It'll ruin my listing." That was the moment my body went numb. Because if it wasn't active, why was he begging? If it was a mistake, why wasn't he angry? Why wasn't he asking who installed it or how long it had been there? He skipped straight past the discovery and went to damage control. I stared at my phone while two instincts argued. The professional part of me wanted to handle it cleanly. Leave, report, done. The human part felt some kind of guilt. Like maybe I was overreacting. Like maybe I was about to become that guest who ruins someone's business. It's unsettling how fast doubt shows up. He messaged again. "I promise it's not recording. It's just there." I wrote back, "If it's not active, why does it have a lens and a memory card slot?" He didn't answer that. He sent, "You're safe. Please, don't do this." The tone felt personal, like I owed him discretion. That's when I started scanning the room properly. Outlets, vents, thermostat, the alarm clock I hadn't even noticed before. Normal objects suddenly felt staged. I didn't sleep. I put the device in a plastic grocery bag because I couldn't stand touching it again. I shoved my suitcase against the bedroom door, even though I knew it wouldn't stop anyone. It was for my brain, not security. I left the bathroom light on, just enough to keep shadows from pooling. At some point, I heard footsteps above me, slow creaks. It could have been anyone, the host, a neighbor, normal house sounds. But once your brain labels someone as a threat, nothing sounds normal anymore. Around 4:30 a.m., I decided I was done. Not after sunrise, not after coffee. Now. I packed fast. Didn't shower, didn't tidy up. I took one last video of the room, slowly panning to the ceiling mount where the device had been. Then I walked out into the cold and locked the door behind me. I drove to a gas station and parked where other cars came and went. I called a friend and told her what happened. She told me to report immediately, so I reported everything through Airbnb support as soon as I could. Before they responded, the host sent one final message. "You're overreacting." That was it. Airbnb moved me to a hotel later that morning. I finished my contract. I worked. I smiled. I acted like this was something that had ended, but it didn't. I still think about that device sometimes. Not because it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. The scariest part was knowing I might never have noticed at all, that I could have slept there for weeks, FaceTiming friends, laying out scrubs, living my normal life, while someone quietly collected it. And I would have called it a nice place. My name's Daniel, and this was meant to be a reset weekend after a rough year. I was 41 at the time, freshly divorced, and I booked a place in Joshua Tree because I wanted quiet. I just wanted a weekend where nothing happened. Instead, I spent most of it trying not to be seen. The place was a small stucco house on a dirt road outside Joshua Tree. It had a fire pit, patio chairs, and big windows. Total privacy, the listing said, perfect for stargazing. I arrived late afternoon and put my phone on airplane mode like I promised myself I would, because if I didn't, I'd work through the weekend and pretend it counted as rest. I cooked something simple and ate at the table facing the back windows, watching that clean desert darkness roll in. But while I was watching the sky, I saw something out of place. At first, I thought it was just bad lighting, a shadow where a cactus should be, but the shape was wrong. It was upright and still. There was a man standing near the edge of the property line, facing the house. I stood up slowly and took 2 steps to the right. His head turned with me. I stopped. He stopped. I stepped back toward the kitchen. Same thing. He was tracking my movements, like he was watching a screen. I thought that maybe my lit windows made it seem like he was staring when he wasn't. So I turned off the kitchen light and waited. He didn't move. 5 minutes passed. The shape outside stayed exactly where it was. I didn't open the door. I didn't yell. I didn't flash a light. I've seen enough situations escalate because someone wanted to prove they weren't scared. I wasn't trying to win anything. I just wanted a normal weekend. Eventually, I went into the bedroom and shut the door. When I checked again 20 minutes later, he was gone. I stood at the window, scanning the darkness like I could catch him slipping away, but I found nothing, just the desert and silence. I slept, not deeply, but enough. In the morning, I told myself I'd let the first night go. I drove into town, bought groceries, did the tourist version of relaxation, then came back before sunset. Second night, I adjusted without really admitting it to myself. I kept lights low, didn't sit near the windows, like making myself less visible was a reasonable compromise. That part still bothers me, how fast normal behavior turns into something you negotiate with fear. Around 9, I looked out again. He was back, same spot. I tested it again. I moved left, his head followed. I moved right, Same result. That's when irritation crept in. Someone was breaking a social rule and acting like it wasn't my place to say anything. I didn't want to call the host over something that might sound ridiculous. I also didn't want to be the guy calling the police because someone was standing nearby. So I did what I hate doing. I minimized it. I closed the curtains. The Airbnb had thick ones. Once they were shut, the room felt safer, but it also felt like I'd given something up. I paid for a desert view and ended up staring at fabric because a stranger couldn't mind his own business. I slept lighter that night, woke up twice. Third night is when it changed. I hadn't planned on staying a third night, but part of me didn't want to leave with the story unresolved. Like, if I did one more night and nothing happened, I could call the whole thing paranoia. I cooked less, barely turned on lights. When I checked outside around 8:30, he wasn't at the property line anymore. He was closer, near the gravel driveway, using the bush for cover. He was close enough that it felt intentional, but positioned just well enough that he could pretend he was doing nothing at all. Enough to make me aware without giving me something clear to confront. I finally messaged the host. Hey, quick question. Is there a neighbor who sometimes stands near the property at night? I've noticed someone outside the last couple evenings. The host replied, Oh yeah, that's Rick. He just likes knowing who's staying. That was the worst explanation possible. Like it was a local quirk, like I should have expected it. I typed, he's been standing pretty close. He's harmless, the host replied. Don't worry about it. That was it. After that, the place stopped feeling like a rental and started feeling like a stage set where everyone but me knew the rules. I turned off the TV, sat in the bedroom with the door half open, and kept listening. Around midnight, I heard a tap. I didn't move. I waited for a second tap to confirm it wasn't the house settling. It came on a different window, closer. Not the big living room glass, one of the side windows near the bedroom. He's not just standing out there, he's moving. And he's doing it quietly, like he doesn't want neighbors to notice, like he wants only me to notice. I sat on the edge of the bed with my keys in my hand. I didn't want to make noise. I didn't want to announce where I was inside the house. I stayed like that a long time. Eventually, I called a friend and whispered. Told him where I was. Told him if I texted call 911, not to ask questions. I didn't sleep after that. At first light, I packed fast. Before stepping outside, I parted the curtain one last time. I didn't see him, which somehow made it worse, because now I knew he could be close, without being visible. I drove out as the sun came up. The desert looked peaceful again, like nothing had happened. And somewhere between the dirt road and the highway, it hit me. I never actually enjoyed the desert at all. I paid for peace and spent the whole weekend trying not to be seen. I was there for work, HR meetings, training sessions, and I'd picked the place because it looked practical. Somewhere to decompress after long days of listening to other people's problems. I'm not someone who jumps to worst-case scenarios. I'm the kind of person who double-checks locks, sends follow-up emails, and documents conversations just in case. I like clean explanations. That morning, I walked into the hallway barefoot, still half in that morning fog, and saw it right away. The attic ladder was down. It wasn't hanging like it fell. It was down like someone used it and didn't bother putting it away. My brain needed a few extra seconds to load what I was looking at. The rental was one of those cozy modern cabins in Bend. My first thought was logical. Something's loose. Old houses have quirks. Wood shifts, latches fail. So I stepped under the ladder, reached up and pushed it back into place. It folded up smoothly. I pressed until I heard the click, then pressed again. Harder. I didn't stop until my arms started to ache. It held. I remember feeling embarrassed by how tense my shoulders were. I made breakfast, got ready, did my normal routine without thinking. That night, I came back late. I showered, watched something forgettable, and fell asleep. The next morning, I walked into the hallway and the attic ladder was down again. This time, I didn't touch it right away. I scanned the floor for clues I already knew wouldn't be there. Just clean hardwood. I messaged the host. Hi, quick question. The attic ladder has been down 2 mornings in a row. Is it loose? Has anyone been up there? The response came fast. No one has attic access. That's weird. Must be the latch. Just push it up until it clicks. No one has attic access. Okay. So who keeps lowering it? I didn't send that. I rewrote my reply 3 times before settling on something polite and non-accusatory. That's what you do when you don't want to be labeled difficult. I pushed it up yesterday until it clicked. I'll do it again. I did, this time with a chair, giving myself leverage. I pressed until the hatch sat perfectly flush. Then I did something I didn't like. I took photos. I didn't want to sound unsure later. All day at work, the image of that hallway kept popping up in my head, like my brain had filed it under unresolved and wouldn't stop reopening the tab. That night, I tried to convince myself I'd laugh about it later. Maybe the latch really was faulty. Maybe temperature changes did something weird. I even Googled attic ladder mechanisms, like logic could smooth this out. I didn't sleep deeply. I kept listening. Houses have normal sounds. Pipes. Heat. Small pops when things adjust. I kept labeling every noise automatically, like I was auditing reality. Around 1:20 a.m., I woke up and knew something was wrong before I understood why. There was a sound above me. I sat up without turning on any lights and listened. It happened again. It came after I'd moved in bed, like whatever was up there had been quiet until it heard me. I stayed still, holding my breath. I hated that instinct even as it kicked in. I reached for my phone and started recording audio. I whispered the date and time, like I was filing a report for a future version of myself who might need proof that this wasn't imagined. Another sound. Closer, or maybe it only felt closer because I was listening on purpose now. I lay there, staring at the bedroom door. Then I heard a creak in the hallway. Just one. I crossed the room without turning on any lamps. I didn't want to light myself up like a target, and I hated that my brain even framed it that way. I put my hand on the door and waited. Nothing. I opened it an inch. Moonlight from the living room washed the hallway in gray-blue shadows, enough to see shapes. And that's when I saw the attic ladder. Not fully down. Lowering. The first section had dropped a few inches. The hinges moved smoothly, carefully, like someone was managing the weight so it wouldn't make noise. I backed up, shut the bedroom door, and locked it. My hands weren't shaking. That almost scared me more. What I felt instead was clarity. Leave. I called the host. Voicemail. I called Airbnb support and waited on hold. I opened my notes app and started typing exactly what was happening, sentence by sentence, because that's how I cope, by creating a record. I didn't hear anything else above the ceiling after that. No movement. No sound. Near dawn, I packed one bag. I grabbed my essentials and ignored everything else. Before opening the bedroom door, I listened. Then I moved fast. The attic ladder was fully down. I walked fast out, got into my car, and locked it immediately. Later, the host messaged again. There's no way. No one can access the attic. He offered a refund. He sounded irritated in that polite, professional way people do when they think you're being inconvenient. I never went back. I never got proof that would satisfy someone who wanted a neat explanation. I just stopped needing it. Because once you watch an attic ladder lowering itself in the dark, slow and careful, like whoever's above you doesn't want to be heard, you don't argue with maybe anymore. You just update the rule. No more rentals with access from above. My name's Emily, and this was my first trip completely on my own. I remember being proud of myself that night, unpacking slowly, double-checking plans, doing all the responsible adult things I told myself meant I'd be fine. That confidence lasted right up until I closed the bedroom door and realized the lock didn't actually decide who got to enter the room. I'd just gotten to Savannah, dropped my bag on the bed, and did the thing every woman does when she's alone in a place she's never been, walked the room like I was pretending to be casual, but actually checking exits. The rental was cute, like aggressively cute. Exposed brick, warm lamps, a little tray with local snacks, and a printed binder on the desk that said "Welcome" in that friendly Airbnb font. The kind of place that makes you relax before you've earned it. I shut the bedroom door, turned the lock, and heard the click. Then I tested it. The door opened anyway. I had turned it all the way, but it opened like the lock only existed to make noise. I stood there with my hand on the knob, trying to convince myself I'd done something wrong. I locked it again. Slower. Harder, till I heard the click. Test. It opened. I was 22, fresh out of college, trying to prove to myself that I could do things on my own without texting someone for reassurance every hour. I told everyone Savannah was no big deal, that I wanted quiet history, a reset. The listing photos had sold it perfectly. Cozy, safe-looking, historic area. Reviews full of words like charming and peaceful. So when the lock didn't work, I told myself what you're supposed to tell yourself in old houses. It's a quirk. I checked the latch, looked fine, worn maybe, but normal. I pushed the door fully into the frame and locked it again. Same result. That was when the thought showed up that I didn't want to name yet. Someone wouldn't have to break in. They'd just have to decide. I messaged the host. "Hey, sorry to bother you. Quick thing, the bedroom lock doesn't seem to work. It clicks, but the door still opens." He replied fast. "That's weird. Are you sure it's locked?" I sent a short video, me turning the lock, me pulling the door open like it wasn't resisting at all. "Huh," he wrote. "Old house, try pulling the door tight into the frame when you lock it." I tried. It didn't matter. I didn't want to push too hard. It was night one. I didn't want to be that guest. So I said thanks and went out to eat, walked around, did the tourist thing, took pictures like I was relaxed, but all night I kept thinking about that door. Back at the rental, before getting into bed, I tested the lock again. Still useless. I stared at the door, then messaged the host again. "Hey, sorry, still not locking. I don't feel comfortable sleeping like this." The reply took longer this time. Then my phone buzzed. "That's strange. Are you having trouble sleeping?" I read it twice. I hadn't said I was tired, hadn't said I was in bed, hadn't posted anything. The message felt like it skipped a step, like he knew more than he should. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again. Finally, "I'm okay. Just want the door to lock." "We'll look at it tomorrow," he replied. Tomorrow is an easy word when you're not the one trying to sleep in a room that doesn't stay closed. I didn't have anything to protect myself with. No spray, no alarm, just a phone and a bad feeling. So I moved furniture. The dresser scraped loudly across the floor, which I hated, but once it was wedged against the door, the room felt slightly less exposed. I checked the window locks, closed the curtains, left one lamp on. I got into bed fully dressed, hoodie on, socks on, phone in my hand. Around midnight, I told myself I was being dramatic. Around 1, I stopped believing that, because I heard pressure on the door handle. I stayed completely still. The handle moved again, and now I knew it wasn't an accident. I thought about calling the police. I still don't know why, but I didn't. I stayed quiet. Quiet felt like hiding. Quiet felt safer than giving anything away. After a moment, the pressure stopped. I didn't hear anything else, like footsteps or a door opening somewhere else. Just silence. I didn't sleep. Not really. I drifted in and out, listening to every sound the house made. My phone screen lighting up my face whenever I checked the time. When the sky finally started to lighten, I got up immediately. I packed fast, dragged the dresser back just enough to open the door, and checked the hallway before stepping out. I checked out at sunrise and sat in my car for a long time with the doors locked, staring at the front of the place like it had personally lied to me. The host texted later, "Did you sleep okay?" I didn't reply. I drove home early and told people the trip just didn't feel right. The full version felt embarrassing to explain, like I should have known better, like wanting independence had made me careless. I didn't get hurt. I just learned how fast a lock becomes imaginary when someone else knows it doesn't matter. And now, whenever I stay somewhere alone, I don't care how cute it looks in photos. I test the door, and I pay attention to what the place tells me back. If the part that stuck with you was how normal everything felt at first, go ahead. Smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare, and let me know which story got under your skin. And if night driving still feels calm to you, click now to watch 4 really disturbing trucker stories. Because some roads are empty for a reason. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.